Hi guys. So today we're gonna do a what if Shane survived in The Walking Dead. So first up, it's pretty obvious that he'd kill Rick, but that'd be too simple because everything would go the same basically, except the part that Carl and Lori and Merle and some other characters would survive. It's just like now. Let's just say that Shane didn't kill Rick, and both of them just went and they saw the horde, and then Carl, Shane, and Rick ran to the barn like they did, and then Daryl tells Jimmy to rescue them. And I do think that Shane and Rick would have shot the walkers close to Jimmy's RV. I mean, it's Dale's RV, but now Jimmy has it. So after that, I do think that Jimmy would survive, and they'd get Herschel, and all of them, and the others would get the ones it originally did. And and Patricia would still end up dying because she's with some weak characters because Carol isn't that strong right now. Maggie's getting used to the virus. Maggie's still not used to the virus yet, and Beth is just a simple teenager that right now is too weak to even fight anything. And Patricia is an old woman. Basically, Patricia would still end up dying, obviously, and I do think that when they get to the prison, Shane would instantly kill Thomas, and then Andrew would run towards Shane and try to kill him, and then Shane would instantly kill him as well because how crazy Shane is. And then after that, the Big Tiny and Oscar and Axel survive. And I do think that, like that, if that happened, when they did, all three of them survived. So where only Oscar and Axel were supposed to survive, that wouldn't happen because Big Tiny survived as well. And then they just keep them in their cell block, Shane not trusting them, and then like that, T-Dog would end up dying as well. And then Lori, and since like that happened, Andrew would be dead. Nobody would put walkers, like hearts and stuff. So the walkers come. I do think that Lori would survive because no horde means no death. And basically like that, Lori would survive. And Shane would constantly argue with Rick about how Judith is his daughter. And while Merle finds Andrea and Michonne, which is pretty not exciting because he found Andrea. Let's be honest, nobody likes Andrea. I'm right. If you do, it's okay. It's your opinion either way. And like that. Yeah, like that. So like that. That would go the same in Woodbury, and when Michonne gets out of Woodbury, when Glenn and Maggie are looking for babies and stuff, they would come across Merle, and Merle would take them, because he's looking for Michonne now that he found somebody that knows his brother, and Michonne would still do the same. She'd pick up the baby stuff, and she'd go to the prison and tell that Merle took the Asian kid and she took Maggie. So like that, when Shane hears about it, he thinks that since Merle is all buffed up and stuff, that they should keep him. And Daryl says that they definitely, because Daryl's right now, he doesn't know about Merle right now that he's there and stuff, because right now I do think he was not there that time. They don't tell, but Michonne won't know who Merle is, so basically, like that, they just look for Merle, not Merle, Woodbury, and when they do, the governor obviously doesn't trust Merle and captures Daryl And when they both reunite, Merle, Governor makes them fight to the death like it did in the original, and Merle has a plan, but we never got to find that out. And then Rick's group shoots everywhere, and basically like that. They all escape and they keep Merle, but I do think that in the process, nobody would get killed this time since there's a lot of them. And after that, I do see something else happening. When they do keep Merle, I do think Axel would get shot in the head. I do think that they would have headshotted Big Tiny instead because of how big he is. And then when after Big Tiny dies, everyone starts shooting at the governor since there's a lot of them. And some of the governor's men like Martinez, like special men like Martinez would get killed. Martinez would have gotten killed probably, but let's just say he survived since we need him until season 4. Just like that, when Martinez survives, he did in the original, so they constantly start attack. They not constantly attack, but when they do get Sasha and Tyrese's group to get there into Woodbury, Andrea would start obviously mocking Governor, obviously, like because obviously she's one of the annoyingest characters in the show. For me, she is the annoyingest character, and I do think in this time by now, Jimmy and Beth's relationship would start to get better and better. Meanwhile, Shane and Rick's and Lori's relationship would get worse and worse. It's good at the same point and bad at the same point. And then when we move forward to where Rick tells Merle to head and deliver Michonne to the governor so the war can stop, Shane would say the governor would obviously first just kill Merle, then obviously just kill Michonne. And then he'd obviously do that, but then Shane stops Rick and he says, let's just keep Merle here because the governor is obviously going to kill Merle and he's obviously going to kill Michonne. So they decide to do that. Means Merle survives, hooray. And Andrea still gets killed. Let's go, hooray. Yep, nobody really cared about her anyway. Wait guys, I'll be back. वीडियो बना रही है ओ वीडियो तो बाद ही बना रही है पहला टाइम बना कर Okay, I'm back. Now, let's view season 4 starts. Everyone is just farming around. Merle and Shane are becoming a duo because of how crazy them both are. Daryl tells everyone to give redemption to Merle, which they do because now Merle's a member of them. And Oscar and Axel are alive still, so that's good because I really did like them. But they've been gone for a long, long time. But in this, they survived. And when Shane does, and when like the governor attacks them, most of the survivors of the prison would get killed, and the characters don't. All of them would go into different groups like that, and I do see that Axel and Carol get into a relationship. I think that Axel and Oscar would go with Maggie, and Bob and Sasha, and Tyrese goes with T-Dog and Carol and Jimmy, and Herschel's dead because his head got cut off. Sad. Since like that happened now, Shane would go with Lori, Carl, and Rick, and Merle and Daryl and Beth go together. And Merle, Daryl, and Beth do run into Joe's group, and they do join it because they have no better option to. And after that, Shane and Rick and Michonne and Lori and Carl would run, and Rick would run into Joe's group, and they would definitely destroy Joe's group, since like they are all of the characters that are strong except Lori. She's okay strength, and then just like that, since like they've all survived. They find sanctuary and they reunite with Glenn Abraham. They find Glenn Abraham, Bob, Glenn Abraham, Eugene, Rosita, Tara, and Bob, and they find Maggie, and they find Jimmy. They find the others, Sasha, Tyrese. They find Sasha and Tyrese. Yeah, they don't find Tyrese because Tyrese is with Carol and Jimmy and T-Dog. So when the group finally is back with them now, since there's 4 people now, they can make an escape. Carol, Tyrese, and T-Dog and Jimmy make them escape, and they destroy the sanctuary because there's a lot of them. And Shane would completely go all out, breaking necks like he did with Randall's. And we could see something happening. I do think that someone would end up getting killed, and I do think that it would be Lori, since we do not see her. It wouldn't be Lori. I don't know, really. I guess she would survive since Shane and Rick are protecting her. Probably Carl as well. But he's mostly taking care of Judith, but he doesn't really need to do that right now because the Tyrese, Carol, and Jimmy and T-Dog are doing that right now. And then when they do escape, they finally reunite with Judith, Tyrese, Carol, and T-Dog and Jimmy, and then we would get to see I do think that since Beth would not get kidnapped and stuff, her and Jimmy would get married. Then they find Aaron and Eric, which leads them into. In season that, they get to Alexandria, and they find the group. And I do think that in there, Shane, Daryl, and Merle wouldn't really fit in, while the relationship of Maggie and Glenn and the other relationships would have that are just getting married. They would have a good home to raise a child in, and it's pretty safe like that. Now we move on to season 6, where the wolves attack, and I do think that Lori would die. Yes, Lori would die because Shane is probably out and getting the horde to go away with the others, and I do see that Lori would die here, which could lead into Shane and Rick and Carl going crazy after that. And then like that, they do see they see that then Morgan mostly kills all of them with Carol, and like that, Rick and Shane would be out luring the horde out. Morgan and Carol could have taken care of that, and Jimmy. Now I do think by this time Jimmy could have became a stronger character, and he would have helped out Morgan and Carol a lot. And now we move on, and they keep on meeting Negan's people, the Saviors, and they're still luring the horde away. But the horde comes, into Alexandria, and Deanna ends up dying, and Ron wouldn't shoot Carl in the eye because he does know that if he does be stupid like that, Shane or Rick would kill him instantly. And with that, we do see that Carl has 2 eyes, and all of the Alexandrians that are alive start killing everyone. And I do see that T-Dog would not. I do think that T-Dog would die soon now. But let's just move on to season 7. They like season 6, the ending of it, when Maggie's pregnancy is getting really serious, and they meet Jesus, aka Paul Rovia, and he takes them to the kingdom. Not the kingdom, Hilltop. And now we move on to the ending of season 6. They see that Maggie's pregnancy is getting worse and worse. So the group that originally took Maggie to the what is it called? They were trying to take her to Hilltop, but they got ambushed by Negan, of course. And I do think that Shane and Merle would stay back at camp to make sure nobody gets killed and attacked. And Glenn and Abraham would still end up dying. And like that, when they both end up dying, I do think that then surely, but I do surely think that I'm pretty confirmed on this. Merle would try to end up killing Negan or Simon or Dwight, and they would prison him like they did with Daryl. And now the Dixon brothers are imprisoned together, which is going to be a better escape, and they both escape pretty soon, and they go to the Hilltop like they did. And I do see that, I don't think that Negan would kill Spencer just to teach Spencer a lesson. He ends up killing T-Dog, and he ends up killing Olivia. Then like that, I don't think he would kill them. He just stab Spencer's guts out and kill Olivia. T-Dog would end up dying. Although I do think that his end could come in season 8. Well, we're on season 7, so let's just continue season 7 for now. And then like that, when they do, they see Spencer and Olivia are dead, they bury them like they did. And then like that, they keep on, I do think that in there, like, Scott and what is it called again? I do think that there is a slight chance that something might go down between Carl and Ron, because Ron is alive, but Ron's whole family is dead. His father Pete was killed by Carl's father Rick, and his brother Sam and mother were eaten by zombies because of Sam. I do blame Sam for that, but it doesn't really matter. Ron would try to take revenge on Carl, but Carl wouldn't try to kill him. He'd just try to convince him, and eventually he would get convinced. But for now he's not gonna get convinced, obviously. And like that, Shane would constantly start arguing about how Judith is his daughter, not Rick's. And now, since Judith is getting older and older, like that, eventually Shane would do something. I'll just tell you guys that when we get to season 9, and so now we see the war between when Alexandria gets attacked by the Saviors. I do think that they would have still needed help, even though if they have Shane and Merle, because they still wouldn't need help. Just because both of them are crazy doesn't mean that they don't need help. Because look at this, Daryl. Look at the season 11 Daryl. He was pretty strong, but he still had to have Aaron and Gabriel with him, and like that. The Kingdom and Hilltop come and help Alexandria like they did. And now we move on to season 8, where Alexandria is looking for supplies, and Hilltop is just Hilltop and Kingdom are just trying to end Saviors, and they're succeeding mostly, while Morgan is still getting tortured. I mean, he's mostly just keep on having hallucinations of everyone he kills, and like that. I do think that Shane would instantly in that. I do think that Shane and Rick would get better now, but Shane would still be jealous of Rick because not really jealous. He'd still want to kill Rick, but if he does kill Rick, he wouldn't have Carl anymore, so that's why he can't kill Rick. And like that, the relationship, Shane is acting like they're okay, and like that, Shane and Rick eventually become good together with each other, but like that, but I do think that Michonne and Merle will get into a fight a lot of times, since Merle survived season 3, and Shane would mostly go and help Merle because Merle and him are friends, and like that, we keep on constantly seeing that happening, and then we see the reunion of Morales and Rick, and Morales gets killed, of course. Daryl shot him with the arrow in his neck, and then after that, they go in the war with the Saviors and start fighting. And I do think Carl would survive because Shane is gonna obviously do whatever Carl wants because he loves Carl like he's his son. And then just so Carl understands he loves him, he'd obviously go with Carl and get Sadiq, and then like that, what happened after that? And then where the bombing happens, no one would. Then they'd all go in the tunnel like they did, and Dwight would betray Negan, but Negan wouldn't know that. He's secretly working with Alexandria, Hilltop, and Kingdom. I mean, Kingdom's destroyed now. Because and now all the Kingdom survivors are in a Hilltop, and since now they have Dwight, Shane would he just tried to kill Dwight, and he wouldn't be successful, obviously, considering how most people would stop. Some people would stop him because they do see how Negan ripped Dwight's skin off and killed his wife in front of him. Some people would understand and try to keep him alive, and they do succeed to keep Dwight with them. And then like that, Negan kills Simon because of how much he didn't trust him anymore. And then now he knows that Dwight is betraying him, and now he knows Gregory is as well. And since Shane is alive, he'd obviously go and they would keep Dwight. I mean, so in the fight between the final fight of season 8, where Carl is still alive, T-Dog, and I do see that Negan does end up not killing anyone, but I do think that someone's end is coming up pretty close. I'm not gonna spoil it because he's a fan favorite character, but I was okay with him. He was a side character most of the time. And I do think in season six they already would have gotten rid of Myrtle's hand with a knife, because they would have given him a prosthetic hand. So forgot to mention that. I'm sorry. So in season 9, it's 1 year later. Carl would be 15, and Shane, since Judith is almost getting, Judith is almost 5 years old now. She's like that. Shane would start to want to tell Judith that he's his father, but when what is it called? Rick blows up the bridge because he doesn't want anyone to die because of the horde. That does happen, and Shane starts blaming Daryl for Rick's death, which Rick didn't really die. Now, we do see the torch get passed to Daryl, and Carl's like the secondary leader, and Shane's like the third. He's kind of crazy. And we do end up seeing that Shane would free Negan earlier, and now we just move on to season. I do think that what is it called? I do think that they would keep Dwight with them. And then Negan and Dwight wouldn't really they wouldn't really get along, because obviously we did see how Negan killed his wife, and he kinda ripped his skin off his face. But eventually he'd get over it. And now I do think that it is time. And when they do look for Eugene after he got lost, I do think Merle, Jesus, and Shane and T-Dog and Aaron and Daryl, all 6 of them would have been looking for Eugene. And I do think that the Whisper would have killed T-Dog instead of Jesus. We lost T-Dog. So after that, we do see a lot of people at his funeral, but there's one good thing: Jesus survived. We do see and now Henry and Carl are becoming good friends, because Henry is probably going to survive, because Shane is probably going to protect him. Merle and Daryl are probably going to protect him, and like that. And I do think that it's been a long time since Jimmy, and I do think that Jimmy and Beth's kid would be the same age as Herschel Jr., but he's not back yet. And it's been a while since I mentioned Oscar and Axel. I do think that when Carol met, their relationship would have ended in season 6. And I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry as well. So basically, now we move on to season 10, where in the beginning we do see we do see how the Whispers are we do see the flashbacks of how Tara and Enid died. In season 9, Tara and Enid die. Henry doesn't end up dying with the other characters, Tara, Enid, and the others. Henry wouldn't end up dying because of Carl and Daryl and Merle, and Carol would have protected him. And Lydia and Carl would get into a relationship because Henry, because of Lydia wouldn't know who to pick. She'd think of picking Carl, she'd think of picking Henry, so let's just leave that for now. And finally, Gabriel is starting to be useful, and Eugene is as well. Meanwhile, Aaron and Jesus might become best friends. And like that, Shane is just depressed because he's lost basically everyone. Now he only has 2 people in the world that he cares about. It's just Judith and Carl. And he's just constantly thinking about them. But now we move on where Negan is with Alpha and the other Whispers, where he cuts off Alpha's head. And then like that, I do think Beta would kill Oscar. When Oscar dies, Axel would get mad because they're probably best friends. And like that. Like what do you call it again? I'm really sorry, I keep forgetting what to say next. Then after that, you do see how, you do see where, what was it again? Daryl, I do think Daryl and Merle would have teamed up and killed, Beta. And then Carol would be really happy with Negan that he killed Alpha. But it wouldn't really be such as that because Henry's not dead. Carol just wants Alpha dead, I guess, because of how, so like that, he can stay now. And finally we see Maggie coming back. So that's good. And we see Beth and Maggie reuniting. And now we move on to season 11. So the group is just looking for food in the beginning of it. So like that, what was the names again? Alden, Gage would still end up dying, and finally Ron would get over the fact that Carl and his father didn't do anything when his mom was just getting eaten by walkers and his little brother Sam. He would have gotten over it by now, and we could see a trio of Henry and Ron and Carl, and they would go to get food with the group, and like that, Gage would still end up dying, and like that, the girl that got bit, she'd still end up dying, obviously. And when they leave Alden at the church, Bixie's really injured. They would still have Merle, not really Merle because the kids like Ron and Carl and Henry take care of what was his name? Alden. So Alden survives. Let's go. And Shane and Daryl are constantly arguing because Shane wants to be the boss and stuff. And then we do see an argument between them a lot of times, and I do think that in by the ending, they would start to finally, they would get along because it's the finale of season 11. Like that. So now the group meets up at the Commonwealth, and they finally reunite with Yukimo and Ezekiel and Eugene, and they completely don't know who Princess is. Shane obviously doesn't trust them because he has trust issues, and like that, when Shane doesn't trust them, he keeps on trying to murder Pamela Milton. But Mercer, the guards are all the time guarding her and stuff. And when the war between Hilltop and Alexandria versus Commonwealth begins, nobody would, anyone main wouldn't get killed. Nobody would get killed in their war. And I do think that in the final episode of season 11, Luke would end up surviving. and because so many characters are still alive, and we finally get to see what we've always wanted. We finally get to see a flashback of all the characters that died because of Shane realizing how important everyone is, and he starts to go crazy and kill all the walkers, and finally Shane gets redemption, and like that. Yes. Rosita still ends up dying though, so that's sad. And that's what if Shane survived.